Okay, so that's really important because we need to be able to set it very precisely. So for instance, in the shoulder, we're going to want to rotate. When we rotate in Y on the shoulder, we want it to move perfectly straight forward on our character, or perfectly straight back. And it's going to make it easier on the animator. If we rotate in Z, then it should move the arm perfectly straight in to the body, or perfectly straight up towards the head. Now, we can alter both of those axes by manipulating the X rotation only. So if I go back to the mill, I can select this, and let's just make it a shelf button. So if I select it all, middle mouse click it and drag it up to the shelf, I have to tell it whether it's Mel or Python. It doesn't have a name yet. I'd want to go through and name it in the shelf editor, which I'll show you real quick. Shelf editor. I'm not going to bother to do it right now. But now if I click this, every time I click it, it rotates that rotate orient just 1 degree at a time. So that might be kind of annoying. So what I do is I create a 5-degree rotation. Select it all, drag and drop it, tell it that it's Mel. This time it's going to do 5 degrees at a time. But what happens if I go too far? Well, I just rotate -5 and -1. Okay, now I've got 4 custom shelf buttons. I can move it in increments of 1 degree, positive or negative, or 5 degrees positive or negative. And now I can go through, and all I have to do for sure is make sure that the X is pointing down chain, and then I can alter the rotation of the X joint orient so that my Y and Z will behave properly also. Okay, so that seems maybe like overkill, but in all reality I actually create a 1/2 degree increment as well. So I would do like a -0.5, select it, and a 0.5. And now I can do even smaller increments. Okay. Now, one last thing to cover real quick. When I'm going to create a new joint chain, just to show this off. Joint. And you go to the front view. Okay, so in your joint hierarchies, let me get 2 panels open actually. Let me change this one to the So if I create a bone, you'll see it show up over here in the hypergraph. So I'm going to hold down X and create a joint. And I'm going to create a child joint. And then I want you to notice when I create this next joint, the joint that I have right here is going to change where it points to. So it points to that one, right? So if that's the clavicle and this is the shoulders, then I don't want the shoulders to be pointed to the clavicle. I want the shoulders to be pointed to the neck, right? So if I hit press up on my keyboard to pick walk up one joint and hold down X, and I create another joint for the neck, you'll notice that joint 2 is still pointing to joint 3. That's not good. That's not what we want. So you can actually take care. So what's the point of all this? You can actually take care of a lot of your joint orientations just by creating the joints in the right order. And so if I know I need a neck off of this shoulders joint, then I can just create the neck joint first. Then I could pick walk up, and now this joint 2, my shoulders joint, is pointing straight to the neck joint. And now I can continue to add joints to that joint 2, which is my shoulders joint, and it's not going to reorient joint 2. And so I still have a good orientation by default. And so the order that you create these joints can speed you up dramatically. Now, I'm going to create one more scenario. We'll switch to a side view. And a lot of times what's going to happen when you create a spine is with a little bit of an S-curve, you're going to get a weird set of joint orients. So I'm just going to go through and create some. Okay, now they all point to each other, right? But I'm going to show you a problem with them. If I go into component mode and I have that question mark checked so I can see the joint orients, you can see that the Y handle points out to the left on some of these joints, and it points to the front of the body on some of the joints, and some of the joints it points towards the back. If you're putting bones in a spine, regardless of the shape of the spine, you'll want to make sure that all of them are pointing in relatively the same direction. But you still want to make sure that like X is pointing down chain. So let me switch to perspective view. Well, okay. So I would need to reorient all of these. Well, I got news for you. The Joint Orient tool is not going to do this very easily. So again, a mel command would be really handy here. And it's up to you to choose which way is which. But I'm going to change all of these ones that are pointing, Y is pointing to the back. I can change them all at the same time. I can just use this mel command, rotate -R, and I'm going to rotate them 180 degrees in X only. And now they're all pointing to the same side of the body. That's really fast. If you use the Joint Orient tool, then you're going to have to really understand how to make it work. If you use the mel command, it's real easy just to switch it. And now they're all, all the X's are pointing out the same side, all the Y's are pointing to the same side, and all the Z's are pointing out one side, all the